Welcome back to React Native Radio Podcast. Brought to you by My Machine. Tired of things not working? Try My Machine. Everything works there. Episode 341, Catching Up with Maestro.
Leland, do you remember how we got connected up? I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, it must have been a few years ago. I'm trying to think back. I think it might have been 3 years ago, but I think pretty soon after that, we were on your this podcast, actually.
Yeah, so maybe it was we saw Maestro. I know we had Dima on, and it was episode 262. We looked it up beforehand. That was early 2023. So I don't remember, did Maestro kind of like come out right before that, something like that? It was something like late 2022 or
I remember because we released it right before DroidCon New York 2022. So yeah, it was about I guess 3 years ago now.
Wow. A lot of water under the bridge since then. We're going to go over some of that stuff, but Leland, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, for sure. I'm Leland, the CEO and co-founder here at Maestro. We've been at it for a while now. The company's been around for, I think, a little over 5 years now. But yeah, Maestro was released about 3 years ago.
Yeah, awesome. How did you get into tech? Like, what was your journey?
Oh, let's see. Well, I was an Android engineer from day one.
Okay. Okay, wow.
Yeah, and my first gig was at a company called Guidebook. They're still around now, but it was an events platform.
That's so funny because I worked for a competitor of Guidebook.
Double Dutch.
In my early Crowd Compass, actually.
Okay, I remember that. Yeah.
Yep.
Nice.
Which is now Cvent or something?
Yeah, it's now Cvent, yeah.
Gotcha. But yeah, that was a cool gig. So I was there for, I want to say like 3 years. And then I was at Uber for about 5. And I think that's where I, cut my teeth, got really deep on the mobile side. Typical founder story, taking what I learned there and trying to scale it up to the rest of the industry.
Right. Yeah, totally. I've actually found this to be kind of cool where we get this melding of the mobile world and the web world in the React Native side of things. And obviously Maestro isn't just React Native, but we see Maestro is pretty important here, the React Native side of things.
Yeah, I think the missions align well with React Native. On Expo specifically too, just kind of the idea that there shouldn't really be two completely separate worlds when it comes to web and mobile, especially with companies now trying to kind of align and unify the experiences. It's really tough when you have to train up two completely separate skill sets, completely separate tech stacks, development side and on the testing side, obviously. So that's what we're trying to do here as well.
Awesome. Let's get into the topic real quick. Before that, I want to talk about our sponsor, my company, Infinite Red. Infinite Red is a premier React Native consultancy located fully remote in the US. We're a team of 30 senior plus level React Native developers, mostly staff level, although the whole leveling thing, that's a whole discussion we should talk about sometime. We've been doing this for nearly a
principal,
decade.
All the things.
Yeah. All I'll say is our average professional developer experience is 15 years or just under, like 14.8 or something like that. I did the math the other day. Yeah, that's pretty cool. If you're looking for React Native expertise for your next project, hit us up, infinite.red/radio. Mazen is not here today. He's still out on baby leave. So it's just Robin, me, and Leland today. So let's get into our topic. As I mentioned, React Native Radio 262, Dima came on and we were talking about kind of like the future for Maestro at that time, talking about better reliability of tests and potentially even like natural language test creation, which we can talk about.
We were still kind of introducing Maestro to the audience. It was new enough that we were kind of like telling people about it, like as if they might not know.
Yeah.
And two and a bit years later, it's more like, hey, what's Maestro up to now? Assuming they already know about it.
Yeah, exactly. And even this idea of kind of becoming a hub for all of like app reliability stuff, screenshot testing and, you know, different things like feature flags and performance monitoring. Product Hunt. Let's start there. You actually made your debut in Product Hunt for Maestro Studio Desktop. So that's kind of a big deal that's happened just recently. I want to start with that. Tell us about that.
Sure. Yeah, we just launched on Product Hunt, like you said, ended up hitting number 3 for the day. So we were super stoked about cool. that. We were kind of back and forth, second, third, you know how it goes. But yeah, we were happy with third. It was our first Product Hunt launch. We plan to do more in the future. This was the beta launch of the desktop app. But yeah, it went well. And the idea behind Maestro Studio Desktop is that we're taking kind of one of the most loved parts of Maestro, which was Maestro Studio. And the previous version was web-based. You start from the command line and making it just more accessible and kind of bundling all the good stuff about Maestro into one thing. So you can, you know, when you get started with Maestro, you just have to download one thing and you're off to the races there. So yeah, that's the idea behind that is better, more accessible real estate for people to use Maestro. And then, you know, somewhere where we can build in more powerful features. Yeah,
absolutely. I've been working on some desktop, well, basically a rewrite of our Reactitron debugger app that we've been working on for a while. And I don't know, I like working on desktop apps for some reason. It's just, I guess because you're testing it in its natural environment, not in like a simulator, emulator, like removed from the computer you're on.
This is where it's going to run. It's not just like an emulation of where it's going to run.
Yeah, something about it.
Yeah, it's really tangible. You get that instant feedback.
I'm just I'm just a huge fan of like, this feels like an unpopular opinion, but I'm actually just like a huge fan of desktop apps in general. Like for like services that I use, if there's a desktop app version of it, I much prefer to use that. For some reason, it's easier for my brain to like switch between apps versus like going into the browser, and the browser is like a million things.
It's similar, I think, to the, I guess, psychology of mobile applications versus like the mobile version of a website. I think
I need to be able to switch. Like, I need to be able to switch to the thing that I'm switching to, and not like switch. Like, think about I have to switch to Chrome and then like find the
Yeah, totally.
So I love desktop apps.
Yeah, I think the bar is just higher too. Like the expectation from a user is just that these things work really well when it's a native mobile app or a native desktop app, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you have fewer problems with like getting logged out all the time, or like things expiring and like, or like caches expiring and like having to refresh, or the tabs getting closed. Like it's just a much more really good feeling experience.
So I want to actually go back to a conversation that you and I had a while ago, because I asked like, you know, what's sort of the status with like using natural language, LLMs, AI with Maestro, because that always kind of felt like, I don't know, it felt like kind of a logical next step for you folks, especially in the era of AI now. But you had a kind of a surprising but logical answer to me, where you said we kind of went away from that. And I think just from what I remember, it was a lot of like, you just can't, nobody can make the cost basis work with that. Like it's quite expensive to just have AI crawling your app or website or whatever all the time. Was there more that went into that?
Well, actually, it's less about the cost of AI, actually. But it's kind of like you said, it's kind of a natural evolution in theory of, you know, Maestro, which is already human readable, very accessible, pretty close to human language already. So it's like, okay, why not just take it one step further, right? We did that. You know, we took our swing at full natural language testing, end-to-end testing, with our previous product, Robin, that no longer exists. But there, you know, well, the reason was very clear to us. I mean, it made for extremely impressive demos. We sold a shit ton of it because of that. But as it turns out, though, it didn't provide the value that our customers or we were expecting out of it. The reason is because when you have AI at runtime, it's non-deterministic, as you expect. And when it comes to...
You want your test to be deterministic. You want to know that, like, once you get it passing, it's going to pass, like, I mean, every time.
If you have to go and verify a pass or a fail every single time because you got AI at runtime, it no longer... It's, you know, you have to be testing the tester at that point, right?
I mean, we were even talking about how you wanted it to be less flaky, you know, like with Dima, when we were talking with Dima, it was like, how do we make this as reliable as possible? Not by adding AI at all. That's not going to make it more reliable.
Right. I mean, like I said, it made for a great demo.
But I'm sure.
And you know, there's probably 10 other companies now starting from scratch trying to do what we did with Robin, and we see the writing on the wall, and we're like, okay, go for it, you know.
Yeah, good luck with that.
But at the end of the day,
I'm actually really impressed that like you tried it and then recognized that it wasn't fitting, and then backed it out. It wasn't. There's a lot of companies that are just like just like slap a coat of AI on it, and
yeah, totally. And it wasn't for lack of commercial viability. Like I said, I mean, it was really that, you know, here at Maestro, like we're trying to provide real value to our customers, and that wasn't it. So yeah, we ended up.
Well, that I gotta say, that's a refreshing attitude, because everybody else, it seems like, has the opposite.
Right.
Can we get commercial viability with some flashy demo?
Right.
With AI?
And screw our users. Like, who cares what? Like, if
who cares about quality? Yeah.
Yeah, you can get pretty far like that, but at the end of the day, the house of cards
there's a ceiling
tumbling down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like Expo has taken a similar approach to you. I talked to them recently about, you know, how they kind of, and they are partnering with AI companies, but they're really looking for the AI companies that are focused on quality, on a really quality developer experience, user experience, all of those things. So yeah, I think you two are aligned in a lot of ways.
We're in a similar boat where we're not saying, hey, AI is not useful, right? I mean, we just released Maestro MCP, so you can plug it into Cursor or Windsurf or Claude Code or whatever you want. That is where we see, like, that's the direction that we see it's going to be useful, because at the end of the day, you still get a Maestro script. So you got the power of AI with the reliability of Maestro, right? And I think that's really where you can get some high leverage, but while also providing real value, right, to users.
Yeah, you can kind of like have this underlying layer of base technology that speaks the language of LLMs really well, that can kind of, it's very pluggable, but it's deterministic. It does what computers do very well versus what like a neural net might do very well.
Totally.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you have some idea of how Maestro adoption has gone in the last few years? Like, have you seen quite a bit of just for Maestro itself? Have you seen quite a bit of adoption?
Yeah, I mean, compared to when we launched it, you know, 3-ish years ago at DroidCon, it's a completely different world now. We just actually got back from DroidCon New York this year, so it's kind of a full circle moment. Where at our booth there this time around, everybody we talked to, most of them had already heard about Maestro. So that was just a huge moment for us, just back to kind of the same event as when we launched, but now most of the people we were talking to already knowing about Maestro. So that was kind of like a really big moment for us. But even more than that is just like knowing that some of the most sophisticated and largest companies in the world are adopting Maestro as their go-to end-to-end testing tool. Like that's really what we've been seeing, and we're really proud of that. Number wise, I think open source adoption is always hard to track, but
it is. Yeah.
We've got some metrics, and I think the one that seemed the most meaningful was between 100,000 and 200,000 unique Mac machines have run Maestro. We have some other metrics, but it's like it gets messy with CI, running the tool, and like how do you count that sort of thing. So like the Mac usage seemed interesting to us. But really, it's kind of more about like, okay, serious companies are adopting this, right? Like we got like DoorDash, Microsoft, Block, Deal, Kraken, Atlassian, Stripe, right?
Probably all of our clients, most of our clients.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what our devs reach for, like easily, hands down. Like no one wants to use, no one wants to use Detox anymore. No one wants to use Alex.
I wouldn't say no one.
Jamon wants to.
We had a discussion the other day, and I was surprised that someone said, "Oh, I still like Detox," and I was like, "Okay." I mean,
all right. Well, I need to hunt that person down. And talk to that.
I'm gonna connect that person with you.
Personally convert them.
Yeah, please connect me because I would love to hear.
I love how like we have clients where like our developers are writing most of the Maestro tests. We have clients where like the the QEs are writing most of the micro, and like it works both, like either way. Like it's accessible to even the people who aren't necessarily writing the code, which I love.
I think the only I think the thing he said was basically like with Detox, because it's gray box and it has some, visibility into the internals of React Native, then when there's a failure, it's a little easier to kind of quickly get to the problem. That was something he mentioned, but yeah, actually I'll connect you up. It's Ryan Linton. He doesn't listen to the podcast, I'm pretty sure, so I can just say whatever I want.
So you can say whatever you want.
Yeah. Also, I've worked with him since going back to my previous company, like 12 years now. So.
Well, and if you get a DM complaining about what you said, then at least you know he listened to the episode, so it's a win-win.
This is true. Yeah, exactly.
All right,
I should do my performance evaluations live on the podcast and see if they listen.
Oh boy. Well, yeah, Ryan, we need to sync up then. We got to chat.
I'll connect you.
Cool.
But no, Robin is absolutely correct that the vast majority of our developers immediately reach for Maestro, and it's for good reason. And I remember saying way long ago, that this space is really ready for a competitor to Appium and Detox, because it felt like nothing was really hitting the mark. And I think Maestro came out not long after that.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's not surprising that this space hasn't seen much movement. If you look at the big players there, there are these open source projects that kind of who's behind that.
Yeah.
But for us, right, we're one company and we're all in on Maestro, and that's all we do.
Yeah.
Right? So we're extremely incentivized to make sure that this is an amazing experience for our users, and it's going to continue evolving because there's an actual company behind this driving it forward.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly.
I love that. I honestly, I love that. I mentioned earlier that we had talked with Dima about maybe making Maestro and mobile.dev as sort of like a hub for everything reliability. And now you're kind of talking more in terms of focus, which I like. I love the focus. I love the specialization. I love the kind of just being very, very, very good at that one thing. Do you think there's still room in the future for this kind of hub for reliability, or are you all in on like, let's just make this end-to-end testing thing amazing?
Most checks that you would want to do as a company rely on actually using the application, right? So I think at the core, I mean, it's got obvious when I say that out loud.
Yeah.
All these checks, like you have to actually walk through the application to be able to determine if things are working as expected when it comes to quality, performance, like you're saying, or localization, grammatical, spelling errors, that sort of thing.
Well, they literally have entire teams of people that do exactly this.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, at the core of it, it's still automation, right? You still need to have something that can walk through your application. And to us, that is Maestro, right? So absolutely, that is still part of our vision, is to expand into other quality areas aside from just functional testing. But as it turns out, functional testing and just reliable automation is a huge problem. So we're still all in on that. And there's plenty of room to grow and expand to other quality areas.
Yeah, I personally would love to see in the future some way to test performance more. And actually, Maestro does actually power one of our tools for performance, which is Flashlight.
Oh, nice.
Which flashlight.dev, I think it is. Is that right, Robin?
Yeah, that's the product. I didn't know that Maestro was underneath that.
Right. And yeah, if you write or if you just enable their basic smoke test, it writes a quick Maestro test and then runs it and then tests startup time. I don't know if it's time to first interaction, stuff like that. But it's powering it under the hood.
Is that something they worked with you on? Or did they just
I remember the author or maintainer, someone reaching out and just, hey, thanks for building Maestro, we're using it for this tool. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing to see how Maestro is kind of moving into other ecosystems and powering some other tools. I know Block, some of the folks at Block are using Maestro for some of their, some cool stuff they're building over there. I know Airbnb as well, using Maestro as the foundation for some of the stuff they're building. So yeah, it's awesome to see Maestro kind of getting its tentacles into other ecosystems and also just getting deeper into the React Native ecosystem in general. Like we've got first class integration with EAS on the Expo side, React Native the core React Native team at Meta is actually using Maestro to test the framework itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's great to see how Maestro is kind of expanding the reach beyond just the immediate use of QAs and developers to test their own application.
I'm actually curious. You talked about like expanding into other areas. What about web? Like, is web a focus for you folks, or is it really just going to be about mobile?
Yeah, we now support web. So recently we released an early version of web support on Maestro. So that absolutely is a focus for us. Okay. Yeah, it's still early on, and obviously breaking into the web world is a much different.
There's a lot of competitors.
Yeah, it's a different journey than on the mobile side. So we're still very much focused on mobile, but absolutely web is part of the long-term vision.
Yeah, because I can see that being a little bit of a barrier if it doesn't, because then you have to learn 2 tools to test across your suite of everything.
Yeah,
if you were using React Native.
Totally, and I think that's like our most likely wedge and adoption path for us is like mobile's where the biggest need is. Let's get in there, and then we're already having our users say, hey, like we would love to only use one framework and only train our team up on one tool. So now we can say, yeah, totally, you can.
So what about physical device support? So this is something we get questions about, and I think one of the primary reasons why people would go back to Appium was sort of this, okay, well, these device farms, they work with Appium because it's just kind of everywhere. The developer experience is not nearly as good, and they're more flaky in some ways, but at least we can test on like an array of physical devices in some server farm or device farm somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's a requirement for some of the more sophisticated companies for sure to test on physical devices or the devices that their users are actually using. We totally understand that. It's something that's been, to be honest, slow going, but we've made some progress.
I'm sure it's tough. Like it's a huge undertaking.
Yeah, it's not just the framework support, right? It's like figuring out how to support that in a cloud environment, right? And run things in parallel. So we are actually having conversations about partnering with one of the big device farm players. So those are ongoing conversations. Can't talk much about that yet, but it is something that we take seriously. But yeah, it's not something that can happen overnight. But we realize the importance of it. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I think the number one priorities for developers or QEs writing automation is that like the tests are reliable. You're not getting like flaky tests, that you're able to test all of the features in your app, which sometimes include things that don't work on simulators like push notifications or camera support or whatever. And that you can run it at scale. And like you can test like all the different flavors of device that you need like all at once and not have it take like a whole week to run your test suite. So like those are the 3 things. And like having a physical device farm is really the only way to get that second.
Yeah, I mean our mission is to empower all teams to scale up test coverage across all platforms. Right. So when it comes to supporting all teams, there are certainly some folks where their core features do rely on physical devices. It's something that our mission absolutely includes making sure that we can service those folks as well. Yeah,
totally. Let's talk about your cloud service as well. So this is the easiest way to get started with testing Maestro because it's all like hand-tuned for Maestro, very, very specific. And I mean, this is actually a non-trivial problem, I'm pretty sure. Like you can't just slap it into, just go grab a $4 DigitalOcean droplet and spin it up and everything just starts working. This is something that will take some time if you try to hand roll it yourself, even though you can. So tell me more about that. Like you've had this for a little while now, and how does it work? Has it been a challenge to kind of like get it up and running?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of folks start off using Maestro obviously locally on their own machines. And then a natural next step for a lot of folks is like, okay, let's try to run this on the GitHub Actions infrastructure. Just spin up a Android emulator, iOS simulator there on their infra, and run Maestro against those devices, those virtual devices, or use Bitrise or some other provider like that. And that will work. It's just when you get to a certain level of scale, well, how do you handle test sharding, like running things in parallel, right? Bigger problem is that even if you run them in series, it's going to be really flaky, right? Because that infrastructure is not built for executing end-to-end tests against a running virtual device reliably. So unfortunately, there is no magic wand here for folks running this on your own infrastructure or a generic provider like that. This is what our team spends, a lot of their days, day in, day out, actually making this rock solid for Maestro users in the cloud, right? So that's why Maestro Cloud is kind of the best place to run Maestro if you're thinking about actually scaling up your test coverage. But if there's, I guess I'm trying to think of if there's any suggestions I can give to folks who are trying to do this on their own, either on-prem or on GitHub Actions or Bitrise. Make sure you're giving it enough resources. So make sure you've got enough CPU, enough RAM. That's oftentimes a main culprit of just not being able to connect to the simulator. It just takes too long to boot up. Yeah. Just make sure you give it enough resources. Obviously, that ends up getting kind of expensive, but that is one way to make it a little bit more reliable.
Just to interject there, that's how I kind of think about it, because you might go to the pricing page on maestro.dev and say, okay, well, there's an investment happening here. Should I be just using GitHub Actions? I can just throw that in, right? Well, once you actually get it up to the resource level that you need in order to not have it just fail because it ran out of memory. Yeah, you're paying for it anyway, and this is not going to be cheap, and you're still not going to get the specialized kind of service. So I think you need to, if you're evaluating this, you need to be thinking about it in terms of just apples to apples here.
Right. But totally, just getting started, if you're just trying it out like that, that's a perfectly viable option. It's just when you actually, when your team starts really caring about reliability and fast turnaround times, like that's when Maestro Cloud starts to make sense.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. What about like hardware features like push notifications, biometrics, haptics, things like that? Are you able to test those things?
That kind of goes back to the physical device limitations, because you're not able to run on a physical device. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was saying, we are in the process of building out physical device support, and that's what's going to unlock testing some of these pieces. On Android, it actually does work locally with a physical Android device. So if you plug it into your computer via USB cord, like that'll work just fine actually with Maestro locally. On iOS, there's still work to be done there. And
so it's mostly a scale thing, but you can run like individual tests on a device.
On Android, but there's still work to be done on the iOS side. Some great folks on the Flipkart team have kind of jumped in to help out with that as well. So there's some movement there. But yeah, no timeline on full physical device support in the cloud and things like that yet.
Have you had any interactions with Apple? Are there limitations on like what Apple allows you to do with their hardware or their simulators? Like, are you doing things in a way that like Apple would frown on?
No, not to my knowledge. No, I think like their main requirement is you run this on Apple hardware, which we are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I think if people were to say like, what's the main draw to Maestro, it's really around the reliability. Of course, the developer experience is much better, and I think that does matter, and you're focused on that a lot. But I do think the reliability of the tests, the fact that they are pretty deterministic, and even when they're not, often there's a lot of things you can do to improve that, But just miles better than the other ones that we've had over the years.
Yeah, totally. I think it's about the developer experience, like you were talking about, but also the fact that once you build out a Maestro test suite at scale, it really works, right? And I really haven't heard any success stories outside of Maestro where people, serious teams are scaling. I mean, like how often you talk to a team and they're like, yeah, we've got great end-to-end test coverage and we love it. That does happen with our users, which is quite a departure from what the ecosystem's been like in the past.
It's an incredibly hard problem to solve, and developers are notoriously unforgiving, and it's kind of annoying sometimes because you're like, this is so much better than what you had before.
Yeah, totally. And from an organizational standpoint too, like oftentimes, the teams we're talking to, they've got the developers using it, but they also have a QA team who are ramping up on Maestro as well to maintain like a hundreds of regression tests that they have to run through. And instead of 5 days, it's taking 4 hours to run them, right? So that's also like a big pull on the Maestro side is like from an organizational standpoint, it's a lot more attractive because you can scale up much easier with the staff you have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that I've seen, projects come in and they have some Appium tests or something like that. And but then when you actually look at it, they're not running them. And it's, okay, why aren't you running these? Well, they got really flaky and we got tired of like debugging that. So we just disabled them.
Because it totally takes the wind out of your sails if you're going for a release and you like run your suite and
CI
like stuff is failing that wasn't failing before. And you have to figure out like
locally, it's fine.
Exactly. And so you just say, screw it. We're going to skip and then that's
we know
the beginning
it works.
of the end for your test suite.
Yeah, the CI doesn't know that it works, but we know it works, so let's just ship it.
Yeah,
exactly.
And that's where a lot of our efforts are going to go to in the future. Is like I can't sit here and say that when you get up to 1,000 tests, it's you don't have to put any work in to maintain that. There's still there's still quite a bit of work to actually maintain it, no matter what you're using. Maestro makes it easier, of course, but what we're looking at now is not full natural language testing at runtime using AI, but using AI to self-heal your Maestro test suite, right?
Oh, yeah. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, and it's there, right? The technology is pretty much there to be able to really accelerate folks in actually maintaining the test coverage over time. So that's one of our big areas of focus going forward as well.
Yeah, I could see like, okay, on GitHub it says, okay, CI failed, but it doesn't just say CI failed. It says, and Maestro thinks, Maestro's AI thinks that this could be the problem, and maybe you could make this change. Maybe it even ran it with the change to see if it fixed the problem. Of course, AI you have to be careful with, because sometimes it's like, all right, make this make the tests pass, and it'll just delete the test that didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
That didn't pass.
Looks good to me.
Do not delete any code.
This is why we know it's very human.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I've seen humans do it too.
Yep.
Oh,
including
man.
myself.
All right. Well, the PR where the test is commented out, and you just shake your head.
We're coming up on the end here, but I do want to kind of get a sense, Leland, on what you have coming up in the future, like what to look for, anything. Obviously, people should also go check out Maestro Studio Desktop, which of course is now out. But what else you got going on? What's coming up?
Yeah, I mean, that's where we're going to be building in those features I was talking about, is into Maestro Studio and also on our cloud platform as well. But we do see Maestro Studio Desktop as a future of how Maestro is going to be written for anybody going forward. So like I said, that's the goal of Maestro Studio Desktop. That is to make Maestro more accessible and make it more powerful. So yeah, definitely check it out. We'd love feedback on that, but lots more to come there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Leland. I'm really happy you had the time that this worked out. If people want to kind of learn more about Maestro, obviously maestro.dev, where can they follow along? Do you tweet about this? Do you post about this on a blog? Like where's the best place to find you on the internet?
Yeah, just check out our website, maestro.dev. It's got our socials down at the bottom there as well. Awesome. But actually, the easiest way to get in touch with us is to join our Slack community. So we've got over 5,000 other enthusiastic Maestro users who are there to help as well. So yeah, head over to our website, click the community link at the top there, and join us on Slack.
Very cool. Thanks so much, Leland. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys.
That's it for us. We'll see you all next time.
As always, thanks to our editor, Todd Worth, our assistant editors, Jed Bartosky and Tyler Williams, our marketing and episode release coordinator, Justin Husky, and our guest coordinator, Mazen Chami. Our producers and hosts are Jamon Holmgren, Robin Hines, and Mazen Chami. Thanks to our sponsor, Infinite Red. Check us out at infinite.red/radio. A special thanks to all of you listening today. Make sure to subscribe to React Native Radio on all the major podcasting platforms.